Hey how's it going? If we haven't met, welcome to my channel. I'm Gabrielle and I moved to Glasgow, Scotland in January of 2020, sight unseen. If we have met, nice to see you again. Thanks for tuning in today. All right, so I'm gonna be answering the biggest question that I get from you guys in the comments and from people in real life who meet me and wanna know, why Glasgow? How did you get here? Like, what the heck? You're from the Bahamas. So the answer is a Google search. I literally Googled best UK cities for millennials, and I decided ahead of time that I was going to disregard London on the list. I figured it would be high up there, but also I know the cost of living there is really high. So just not London, and Glasgow was number one on the first list that I looked at, and number two behind London on the second. And that's it in a nutshell. I mean, I can end this video here and just let you know that's why Glasgow, because of Google. But I know that you will have some more questions, and there is, of course, a little more information, some backstory that I could share with you. And so let's get into it. I have some notes over here just to help me get through all the big points. And the first one is, why was I searching to leave the Bahamas in the first place? How did I decide that I wanted to move to the UK, all that. So I was born and raised in the Bahamas. I know a lot of you all think that I'm American, and I really only sound Bahamian if I'm talking to Bahamians and I'm relaxed and just feeling really comfortable. This is my neutral talking to strangers accent, but I was born and raised in the Bahamas, and that's where I was living when I decided to move. I'd actually decided I'd known for a few years that I wanted to move and that I was saving, and I had some countries in mind. The UK was not one of them. And then in 2019, I was really frustrated basically with the infrastructure in the country, and the cost of living is super high there. I've lived in New York City, and it was comparable to living in Nassau, which is where I'm from. So I just wanted somewhere new. I love cities. I've never lived in a city that I haven't liked. So I knew that I wanted to live in a city. I knew that I wanted to move, and I was just waiting basically until I had enough money saved and I figured out what I was going to do for work and all that stuff. But then 2019 came and I was like, okay, I've had it. I'm ready to go now. Where can I go now? And so remember I said I've lived in New York, and that was when I first had the experience of, was that New York? Yeah, the first experience that I've had living somewhere and not having status that would allow me to basically plan out a life. I was living there after grad school. So I studied undergrad in the US and also graduate school in the US. And then I moved to New York City and was living and working there, but had to move back home because I'm not American and I didn't get a work visa, sorry. So that knowledge and that experience of the stress and the emotional upheaval and the relational upheaval and all that stuff made me really want to focus on a place that I could go without having to deal with that on top of everything else, because I had a financial goal that I hadn't met when I decided that I was ready to leave in 2019. I had not saved the amount of money that I wanted to have saved, and I didn't have a job that I could just easily leave and do somewhere else remotely. So I knew that those two were going to be challenges, and I didn't want to have status or visa challenges on top of those things as well. And I am privileged enough to have a British passport, thanks to my mother, not because of any British Bahamian relationships. She was born in England, and so of everybody in like my extended family, me and my siblings are really the only ones that have British passports. So I'm very fortunate, and I just decided, okay, I'll move to the UK. And that was a challenging, maybe not challenging, but I was not thrilled necessarily about it because the Bahamas is very sunny and very warm, and I knew that it's not sunny and warm up here all the time the way that it is down in Nassau. But that's what I did. I narrowed my search, or I narrowed my options from the world to the UK. And from there, I had no clue. I'd never lived in the UK before. I'd transited through Heathrow Airport a couple of times on international trips. I visited London once or twice before to see a friend, but really no real familiarity with the UK, certainly not with Scotland. That's why I had that's why I went to Google. I was like, I don't know. I know London is super expensive. I'm probably not going to want to live there. But where else is good? It could be anywhere. Hence Google. It was a great search. And of everything that was on the list, like I said, Glasgow was number one. There were some other cities up there too that I did take a look at, but well, first of all, Glasgow was number one. And second of all, I like the idea of moving to Scotland. My biological dad is Jamaican. I'm half Jamaican, and my great-grandparents on my paternal great-grandparents, like his paternal great-grandparents. That's so confusing. Anyway, family on that side, a couple generations ago, are Scottish. And I thought, oh, that's so romantic. Like, Gabrielle returns to Scotland, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, I just left home. I traveled to India. I had already had a trip planned to go to India for a friend's wedding. And then I came back home, packed up my stuff, like within a couple of months. I said goodbye. I sold my car. I did whatever else I needed to do. And then I went to visit some friends in Canada and another friend in North Carolina. My best friends live in those countries. And then I moved to Glasgow. I was like, all right, here we go. Never having been here before, never talked to anybody that lived in Scotland, did not have a job, did not have a place to live. I came with 2 suitcases and a dream. Like, that sounds really cliche. It wasn't really a dream. It was just like, I'll figure this out. It'll be fine. They can't kick me out because I have a passport. That was all I knew. And I was going to be resourceful and just sort everything out. So you might have seen I did a video when I was flat hunting. That was more difficult than I thought it was going to be. And when I first left home in October, that's when I actually didn't know when I left home where I was moving. I still hadn't decided. I was just going to go see my friends and decide when I was with them. And so I was Googling best UK cities for millennials in Canada. And that's also where I started job hunting. So I was job hunting for a few months. And I think that gets us to challenges. Yeah, so that was the first thing, is like, what am I going to do for work? And then COVID, that was the big one. I moved in January, and I finally found a place to stay, to settle, the beginning of March, and then we went into lockdown. So that was a huge unforeseen obstacle. And Scotland was in a really intense lockdown for 2 years, all of 2020, all of 2021, which explains as well why I'm still here. So I thought I would come for a year, evaluate, and then move or stay. But year one, I was in this flat, like by myself pretty much the whole time. And so I was like, it's not really fair on the city to have decided that I don't like it here and I'm gonna leave. And I stayed for year two, felt pretty much the same. Like, I'm just kind of getting to know it and I still don't know very much, so I'm gonna stay. And now we are in year 3. So loneliness has been a big challenge, and the weather. I knew that it was gonna be hard, and it has been. I still find it very difficult a lot of the time because it's very cloudy and it rains a lot, and in the winter, the days are very short. I mean, even in the autumn, like a lot of the year, the days are very short, except for the summer where the days are amazing and long. But those have been my 2 biggest challenges. And the way that I've combated the loneliness, just having people to talk to at home, I realized that I needed to make regular like phone dates with friends. And I'm a Christian and I go to church. So I found that really, especially once churches opened up and we could meet again in person, that's been the way that I've made the most of community and just getting to know Scotland through the eyes of Scottish people. And that's been really fun. And another way that I've done that is through work. So I finally, last year in 2021, got a job working with the University of the West of Scotland. And I have the best coworkers, and they are really fun and teach me a lot about Scotland. So that's what I do during the day. And then I started building a business in 2020. Before the pandemic, I knew that this is something that I wanted to do. And so I've been working on that as well throughout this period. I am a branding coach. I help business owners to develop their brand identity through storytelling and then communicate that brand identity through the concepts of storytelling throughout their businesses. And that also explains why my videos are very sporadic and not on any kind of an upload schedule, because I film these and I edit them around everything else. So around my full-time job and building my business and trying to get out and explore the city. Speaking of exploring the city, some things that I love about Glasgow are the parks. You've probably seen my video and in other videos me talking about how amazing the parks are. It's such a beautiful green city. That was a big benefit for me during COVID, being able to walk and enjoy beautiful nature, because in my flat I don't have a balcony and I don't have a garden. I mean, we have a garden, but it's blocked off because of rodents. So yeah. The parks, the people, the slogan of Glasgow is "People make Glasgow." And especially when I first moved here, the weather was crazy that winter, and at bus stops and in little shops, people would just strike up conversations with me about the weather or about whatever else the case may be. And meeting strangers in general, everyone is really warm and friendly and fun. They've got a very kind of cheeky, spunky, raucous personality here that's really cool. I also like the vibe of the city. It's an old city. Glasgow is an old city, and there are beautiful historic buildings around, at least old for me. And it's a mix of old and new. Like, we have a subway, we have buses, there are museums and really good modern restaurants. And then you have beautiful tenement buildings and just other buildings that are hundreds of years old that have been around for a long time. And so I love the feeling of the city. What else? It's very multicultural. So lots of Middle Eastern people, Persian people in my neighborhood, and you can get cuisines from all over the world here as well, which you might not expect, but it's really cool. I really appreciate that. And what else do I have on here? Ease of transport, and well, I mentioned the restaurants. Yeah, so what's cool about the UK is that it's small compared to living in the US, where it takes hours to visit people or to get across the country. Here, it does take hours, but very many less hours. So you can, for instance, between Glasgow and Edinburgh, I could take a bus for an hour and a half. I haven't, but I could take the bus down to London. I think that's like 12 hours, maybe 16 hours. And they're just very good transport links, whether that's bus or train, and obviously you can fly, and ferries in Scotland. Lots of places, there are different islands in Scotland, you might have to take a ferry, and so I think those are really developed, especially considering where I grew up, my background, and not really being able to travel around the Bahamas quite as easily. I really appreciate that here. So that covers everything on my list: how I got to Glasgow, why I chose Glasgow, what I've been doing here, what I like about living here, and I hope this answers your questions. If you have any other ones, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will see you around. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for watching. Bye!